Welcome to Gutter Trash Halloween Specialsode 1 2014 edition. My name is Eric. Hello. This is weird for me, dear listener. You may have noticed that it's been a little bit of time since there was an episode of Gutter Trash for your ear holes. There is a reason for that. I'm not going to get very much into it, but all I will say is that we just needed to take some time off. Jason needed some time to sort of reflect on everything that happened this past summer. I think that we can all agree that it was not a very good summer for the Gutter Trash family. So while I certainly would like to give Jason as much time as he possibly needs, because we will be back, I can guarantee you that. It again, as I said, I am more than willing to give him the time he needs, but I like doing this show, and I like doing this show in October, and it would not be a proper October without some Halloween specialsodes from Gutter Trash, and so I insisted that I do this, and to replace Jason, I have called upon the cast of regulars of the Gutter Trash guest hosts, or just guests in general, to help me out here to celebrate the Halloween season. And, of course, we cannot do Halloween without kicking it off with our very own Matt Brassfield.
Yep. Wouldn't it be the same without me?
Nope.
And now that I'm thinking about it, when Jason took his Canada adventure, I was his replacement for that, too.
Yes, you were. One of, I believe, because I think Joe came in for another.
Yep.
But Joe will also be here for a future Halloween specialsode.
So it's me and Joe.
You and Joe are the go-to guys whenever tragedy befalls Jason, like going to Canada.
Going to Canada.
Yep.
Where we thought he wasn't coming back.
Huh?
Where we thought he wasn't coming back.
Maybe it would have been better if he didn't.
Maybe. You never know.
The
Canadians love Jason.
They do. And they can have him.
Aw.
Then Jason can have the Canadians, because fuck those people.
But Jason, do you think that Jason enjoyed his time in Canada?
He claims to.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
He claims a lot of things.
He does claim a lot of things.
But it's Halloween.
It is coming up soon, by the end of this month. And actually, it will be.
Yep.
At the very end of this month, it will be Halloween.
Yeah.
That is the way it works.
It's the Halloween time, though.
Yeah. I saw something on Facebook that, I hope it was fake. I hope it was fake.
Uh-oh.
But somebody posted a link to, you know what Snopes is.
Mm-hmm.
Snopes.com.
Mm-hmm.
Posted a link to a Snopes article, because it was someone claiming that this year was the first time in 666 years that Halloween would fall on a Friday the 13th.
Uh-oh. But that's not true at all.
Yeah.
Because it's the 31st.
Halloween is always
on the 31st.
On the 31st. No matter what.
Yeah, I think whoever wrote that article is a little confused.
Well, the article is saying basically what we just said, that that is impossible.
Yes.
Because Halloween is always on the 31st.
31st.
But what I am hoping is fake is that somebody even claimed that in the first place.
I would assume it's an internet ruse, if you will.
I hope. But at the same time, I can't put it past the world to be that fucking moronic.
That's true. According to the internet, too, all of us are going to have the Ebola virus in no time as well.
Well, I'm sure that'll happen.
Well, yeah, the internet says it. So,
well, and just
I think it's going to hit on October 13th, Halloween.
Ooh. Well, that's 2 days away.
Oh, man. We're all in trouble.
Oh.
So what's going on, Eric? I mean, it's your return. How are you feeling?
Weirded out.
I can imagine.
This is, August 16th, I think was the last time we recorded an episode. Woo! I mean, I've done, at least one Stupid Sexy podcast since then. And, the Viewmasters has been, kicking as always. But I haven't done a gutter trash in a while.
And this is the mainstay. This is the mainstay show.
This is the mothership, as far as I'm concerned. I have seen Jason. I talk to Jason on a regular basis. But, we haven't, done the show. So it's a little weird. I know that, okay. I'm at the end of the last episode of Gutter Trash, I announced the comic that we were going to read to review. But I fully went into it knowing that it was a horrible piece of shit comic. And after that is when Jason sort of needed to take kind of a mental health break of sorts. And I honestly was afraid that it was the comic that did it. That it was just so bad that it broke Jason.
And what comic was this?
It was called Tales of Ordinary Madness. It was written by a guy, I think his name was Malcolm Byrne, but it was drawn by an artist by the name of Mike Allred, who is more famous for Madman, X-Force, Ecstatics. He's currently drawing Silver Surfer. Very, very well-known, respected artist. But this was one of his first works in the early 90s.
And it's that bad of a piece of crap that you think that it broke Jason.
I think so.
Wow.
Because it's a terrible fucking comic.
Wow. So
it is a terrible fucking comic.
Be forewarned, if you're a creative person, do not read this comic book.
No.
It will break you.
It might break you indeed. I know that I totally just gave away the review for that book, but like I said, by the time Jason comes back, I'm assuming we won't be reviewing that comic at that point. Cause,
you'll have to have a welcome back episode.
Yeah, but that would also mean, since it's been months, that we would have to reread it again, and I for sure don't want to do that.
And I'm pretty sure if it broke him, he is not wanting to do that as well.
Exactly. So I decided, like I said, it just would not be the same to not have Gutter Trash celebrating Halloween. So I knew you guys would probably be down for it.
Of course.
And so I invited you over, and we watched a movie.
A motion picture, if you will.
Yes, we did.
A horror picture.
Yeah. I guess.
It's a horror picture. It's a horror film / part documentary. Because it's like reenactments.
It's got a lot of tropes of a horror movie in it. We watched the movie The Town That Dreaded Sundown.
The Town That Dreaded Sundown.
Yes.
Or as Eric will call it, The Town That Dreaded Sparky. Or Spark Plug.
We'll get to that. So I invited you over. I give you like a list of movies to pick. You foisted that responsibility back onto me. And I chose poorly. I chose very poorly.
Oh wow, you did not like it. Did not like it.
I absolutely hated this movie.
What did you hate? What did you hate?
It's not really a horror movie. It is a movie about a serial killer. A masked serial killer at that. But it is also mostly the most boring episode of Law and Order that I have ever watched in my life. And there are some boring episodes of Law and Order out there.
I will agree. It is a little slow paced.
I fell asleep.
Oh, I seen. Yep. I did see. It's a little slow paced. I do appreciate it. It's was made by Charles B. Pierce,
Yes.
the same gentleman who brought you such classics as The Legend of Boggy Creek.
Right.
And if you've seen that, you know, it follows the same kind of formula with the docudrama where it's, you know, like reenactments and that kind of things. Or not really reenactments / pseudo documentary is I guess is the right word.
Based on a true story.
Yes.
Yeah.
Based on the true, Texarkana killer, the Phantom Killer,
Yes.
or the Moonlight Killer as he was also known.
Yep.
I thought some of the moments work. I really enjoyed, for instance, the Don Wells. For people that know, Don Wells is Mary Ann on Gilligan's Island. She
Yep.
has a part in it.
Yep.
And there is a scene where he is chasing her through like a cornfield and all that. And I think that segment was really solid. The things that don't work, and I'm sure it's something that Eric will definitely back me up, is some of the comedy aspects of the
All
film.
of the comedy aspects of this movie are completely 100% out of place.
And it almost makes you wonder if like Charles B. Pierce added those elements because he thought, since it was based on a true subject, if he lightened the mood, almost like what a horror host would do, where it lightens the mood if you're supposed to be like too involved for the time. You know, I'm sure it was pretty frightening as far as realizing that this guy was real and that he was out there. And granted, they took a lot of liberties, because if you read about the real case, half of that movie is not
Right.
based on any actual fact.
Right.
But I'm wondering if that's why he added the elements of comedy, is to try to lighten the mood. But it does really, I don't know, it just really takes you out of certain elements when it's like you just witness like a murder of this young couple, and then you see like a goofball Barney Fife character threatening people on a phone or crashing a car into a lake.
Yeah. It totally belongs in a different movie. Or just not in any movie at all, because it just never works. Charles B. Pierce actually plays the bumbling officer. I don't know, did he just want to be in this movie so badly that he wrote this role for himself?
It's possible. It's possible.
I've only actually ever seen one of his other movies. Watched it actually just about a week or two ago. The Evictors.
That's a strange movie.
It's very strange.
That's a strange movie.
Better than this one. Still not great. But also doesn't, I mean, there's some weird moments in that one, but there's no straight out comedy. In this movie has just straight up comedy.
And it's weird because it's almost slapstick comedy.
It absolutely is.
And that's, and again, if he wanted to be humorous, okay, there, you could slightly do it, but it is slapstick at times. And I think that is one of the movie's flaws. See, I'm the opposite. I really do enjoy the movie. But I solely, even the first time I ever watched it as a teenager, the comedy bits, I was always like, I don't get this. Like, I don't understand why this is here.
Well, you and I are of opposite minds on this. I love a horror comedy. And you prefer
straight horror
to not have comedy mixed in with your horror. You do not like having your peanut butter in that chocolate.
No,
Yeah.
because I get so much crap because I hate movies like Shaun of the Dead,
Right.
and things of that nature.
Get out of my house.
I know, people love that stuff, but I cannot get into Shaun of the Dead.
Shaun of the Dead is the world's most perfectly written movie. Perfectly written. There is not a flaw in that script anywhere. That is an airtight, comedic genius movie.
We will agree to disagree on this, sir.
It is so beautifully written. Every single line in that movie that is spoken is the perfectly crafted joke. That is a perfect movie.
We're talking about Sparkplug, right?
We are talking about Shaun of the Dead.
Oh, okay. I thought we were talking about The Town That Dreads Sundown, Sparkplug.
I would like to forget this movie as soon as humanly possible.
Well, was there any parts of the movie that you did think worked, that you actually, when you seen it, you were like, oh, that scene worked?
No. Not a bit. I mean, just almost every scene in this movie felt like it belonged in a different movie than was actually happening. The cop scenes all belonged in a different movie. The killer scenes all belonged in a different type of movie. And then, of course, the fucking spark plug just belongs in hell.
So like you didn't think like the like I said, the Don Wells scene, like
it was. I mean, like individually taken, the horror scenes tend to work. Mm-hmm. The scenes of him, stalking his victims, tended to work. But then there was like the couple that he kills, sort of in the middle. I think it's like the third victims, which also seemed out of place for like what had been established already. He tortures a woman with a trombone. It's what?
Well, to be fair, the reason the trombone is in there is because on one of the real victims, they found where she was in a band, and they found the trombone close to the body. So right. I think strangely enough, that scene is probably the most iconic scene from it. Like, when people reference that movie, it's always the trombone scene.
I'm sure, yeah, because it's memorable. Mm-hmm. But it's so weird and out of place, and, it's the only time that the movie gets into what I would probably classify as torture porn. Because it kind of is. I mean, and the thing is, it's so bloodless and not gory at all or anything like that.
Because that's one thing we should say, too. The film is really, it is basically a PG film. I mean, there's no nudity, no violence, no cursing.
Nope.
I mean, it's just straightforward, explains the case, mixed in with slapstick comedy, and there is a lot of police drama where they're trying to figure out who it is. And that's one thing, if people are wanting to watch this movie because they think it's like a slasher film,
right?
Especially since it was referenced in movies like Scream and stuff like that, which is a slasher film. You go into this, it's not a slasher film.
No.
Not at all.
But it has slasher tropes to it.
It does have, yes.
Like I said, it's a masked killer.
The odes to the slasher.
Yeah. And I think it kind of predates some slashers for sure.
Oh yeah, I'm sure.
Because this was made in 76. Mm-hmm. The events in the movie take place in 1946.
Yes.
Which was, I believe, around the time of the real killings.
Yes.
Right?
Close to.
Yeah. Basically just shortly after World War II ended.
Yep.
In Texarkana, around the Texas and Arkansas border.
Which is one thing, too, Charles B. Pierce, a lot of his films take place in that.
Right.
Because Boggy Creek is in Texarkana as well.
Yeah.
So at the end, I was hoping that they would do a crossover as the killer is running into the swamp, that the Fouke County monster would show up, and then they would just combine. And the town that dreaded Boggy Creek would have been the follow-up, but it never happened.
Right, yeah.
I bet somebody appreciates that idea.
Sure, I'm sure someone does.
If Charles B. Pierce was alive, we'd make that today.
I'm sure you could if you wanted to.
I'm pretty sure Boggy Creek's in public domain, so it's free reigns there.
There apparently is a remake of The Town That Dreaded Sundown that is coming out, at least shortly, if not already out.
I think it makes its premiere at the convention circuits and the film festivals. I think it's October 17th, so it is coming up.
So in about a week or so.
Yeah, and it's kind of a remake, but what they're...
It takes place in present day.
Yeah, and it's about, the murders start back up.
Right.
But the original movie is a movie.
Okay.
So it's they're taking the real crime and saying, yes, the Phantom Killer is real, but it's the anniversary of the movie they're showing, and somebody starts killing again that from the movie. So it's another basically film noir / detective kind of movie, it looks like. But it looks gritty, and I do like the fact that MGM is digging out the old Orion label that they bought, and attaching that to it.
Yeah.
That's kind of neat.
I know it's being produced by the guy who produces Glee.
Yay!
And American Horror Story, which is one of the worst shows on television.
Never actually watched any of this.
I don't know, you may love it, I don't know, but I can't stand it. The first season was like one of the worst shows that I couldn't stop watching, and then the second season was one of the worst shows that I was pretty sure I was going to stop watching after I finished it. And I never watched the previous season. The new season just started. I have no desire in seeing it.
And the new season about like sideshow performers or something? Okay.
Yeah, every season is a different thing.
Story or whatever.
Yeah. The first one was about a haunted house. The second one was about the fucking kitchen sink.
Whoa.
Because it was a haunted asylum and a slasher and aliens and zombies and mad scientists and everything else.
So they just threw everything together.
Yeah. Then the third, which I did not watch, was about witches.
Oh.
And so the new one is about a sideshow. Whatever. It's a piece of shit television.
So Eric does not recommend it.
Yeah. But the Town That Dreaded Sundown remake is written by the guy who currently writes Afterlife with Archie.
Wow, that's very strange.
Yeah.
Although, did you watch the trailer for the remake?
I have not.
It doesn't look too bad.
Yeah.
I mean, it doesn't look too bad.
I've actually heard some pretty decent reviews for it. Mm-hmm. But at the same time, I also heard that this was a really good movie.
I don't... The thing with the original is I don't think it is for everyone.
Uh-huh.
It's definitely one of those movies that... If you don't, it's very slow paced, and I think that that's what takes a lot of people out of it.
Well, I can handle a slow paced movie, though. I've watched plenty of slow burn horror movies from the 70s. Mm-hmm. And I'm fine with that. This was just so cheaply done and just so mismatched. Like I said, I just keep falling back on this. It's like every scene that happens in the movie is preceded or followed by a scene that does not seem like it belongs in the same movie. Mm-hmm. From the comedy, to like, some of the killings are like just straightforward, and then some of the killings are like these drawn out torture pieces, and, the cop stuff is either, just all dialogue, or it's all, chases, mm-hmm. and it doesn't gel whatsoever.
I think one of the things too, again, I'm pro the film.
Right.
I've always liked it. But one thing too that, especially watching it now being, 35 and sitting watching it again, is they do kind of make the cops, all of them, kind of incompetent.
Yeah.
Like the car chase scenes, the cops are driving around and like can't control their vehicles.
Well, that happened a lot in this movie.
Yes.
And I'm gonna guess that was probably just maybe a thing of the time period where just cars were.
But if you look, like the bad guys driving the cars were not losing control. It was always the cops that were spinning out and driving in circles, and then, even there's a scene where the sheriff can clearly take a shot at the Phantom Killer and he doesn't fire a bullet.
Right.
Like, not even to scare him off or let him know, like, hey, I seen you.
Right.
Nothing. He just lets him drive away, and then their explanation is, oh, well, he had a shotgun and he didn't think that he could hit him from that distance.
Right.
Well, you don't have to use the shotgun to hit him. You can use the shotgun as an intimidation factor of,
right.
Hey, asshole, you know what I mean? I see you, I see your car.
Especially since at the end of the movie when they have the big shootout, none of their shots hit at all, but they're still shooting and trying.
Yeah. Yes. And they're shooting underneath of a train,
right.
too. So, I mean, that would take a lot of luck to hit, and they do hit him in the leg, but
right.
again, it's not like a critical hit.
No, yeah.
But they still took the chance. Why didn't he not take the chance? And multiple people's lives could have been saved even if he didn't hit him, but scared him off to the point where he, gave up doing what he does.
Especially since the killer himself occasionally uses a gun and is more than willing to just shoot through windows and whatever and just hey, maybe I'll hit something.
Yeah, the killer wants to kill. And and they clearly state that. Like, he's not, like, raping the women or anything. Like, he gets joy out of murdering the people that he's torturing.
Going back to the car thing, the keeping control of the car. After the first attack, he actually the victims survive, but the female victim is on the side of the road, and we see this car driving down the road, who just starts swerving all over the goddamn road, and almost looks like he just crashes into a tree to come to a stop. So that's why I think
But it was another man driving.
It's true.
So I'm wondering if Charles B. Pierce was very angry with male drivers, and every male driver in the movie cannot drive.
Well, Charles B. Pierce gives himself the
worst crash scene.
Gives himself the Dukes of Hazzard scene with the slow-mo jump the car into the air and then drive it into a pond scene.
And we also need to discuss one other man. There is this guy he's a police officer.
Yeah.
And he has a curly mustache, and there is a scene where he's talking to Sparkplug, and me and Eric both looked at each other and said,
"What the hell did you just say?"
Because it was the most mumbled mouth delivery of any dialogue I've ever heard, and the worst is the guy couldn't keep a straight face, giving whatever shitty line he had, and it was probably one of the funniest things I've ever witnessed in a film, watching it with somebody else, because it was simultaneously the look of, what the fuck did he just say?
Well, it reminded me of Boomhauer from King of the Hill.
Yes.
Because it was, just that thick Texas accent.
It was pretty amazing. And if you watch the movie, I'm sure you know exactly which character we're talking about.
Yeah.
And then what's strange is he comes back, and then you can understand what he says.
A little bit better. He was still kind of mumble mouth.
He was mumble mouth, but I mean, at least you can make out words, But The Town That Dreaded Sundown. Eric Schomburg does not recommend.
I do not. Yet Netflix thought so highly of it that it told me that it was going to be a 5-star movie.
It did. It was very highly rated on the Netflix.
Yeah. Netflix is wrong a lot,
and it's a cult movie. It's well respected amongst the horror community.
I've heard about it for years. I just never seen it.
Yeah, and people, have written and did petitions to MGM to release it on DVD.
Yeah.
And Shout Factory ended up buying the rights to put on DVD, DVD and Blu-ray.
Right.
But Schomburg just doesn't like.
I did not. It was very boring. It was poorly acted. Poorly directed. There's a very specific thing that I recognize in bad movies. And it is when two people are having a conversation, and, when people have a normal conversation, they overlap each other, they interrupt each other, they stumble over the words, whatever. And I get that you can't really, in a movie.
Yeah.
But, when the camera is focused on one person, and then they say a line, and then there is a pause, and then the camera shifts to the next person, and then they say their line, and then there is a pause, and then it shifts back to the first person, and they say their line, on and on. To me, that is the number one sign of just poor filmmaking.
Well, and especially when it's long dialogue.
Right.
That's okay if you cut to one person and they have short dialogue, scene over. But
and also, if it's a dramatic thing, where we're talking, and I have this important thing to say, the paused, stilted dialogue, it can work, but this is clearly, these are people just having a normal conversation, and where they are doing this. Betty Ann, why won't you give me a blowjob? Oh, Tommy, you're incorrigible. It just.
Well, and I think again it was the weird mixture of actors that he had.
Right.
Like you could definitely tell who were the real actors that he brought in,
right,
and who were maybe like locals or friends that he just had fill in for parts. Because like the main investigator guy, you could tell that he was like a legit actor.
Yeah.
He knew how to deliver lines. He knew how to be dramatic when need be. But then you would have somebody like Mumblemouth cop guy who clearly was probably not an actual actor.
I bet that guy was the greatest actor ever.
I did get Sparkplug somewhere in his live, so it was like, there's Sparkplug. That's pretty much the dialogue.
Well, that was the scene where Sparkplug was cross-dressing.
Yes, he was cross-dressing and had balloon boobies.
Yep. So yeah, that's a thing that happened in this movie as well.
But, I mean, that's, again, I think that's part of the problem of what you were saying about the filmmaking aspect of it is he mixed guys who could shine a little too much with guys who could not shine.
Right.
So some people were very strong actors and then other people were fumbling and the strong actors couldn't brain it back.
Right.
Like they could not, once the scene started getting awkward and weird, because like even Charles B. Pierce himself is, like he's got some funny dialogue, like the beginning part where, he's taking a phone call from a woman and then, they're yelling at him about don't threaten civilians and then, the call and then he's right back to it. Like that stuff, okay, it's funny and he does alright, but then when you get him in scenes where he's having to act with the lead detective guy,
right,
he definitely does not shine.
Yeah. But, I mean, he does fare better than, like, some of the victims.
Yeah. And the victims, again, you can tell, I think, were just locals.
Yeah.
Besides, of course, Don Wells, who is, like, clearly the only, like, name that they hired, and I'm sure it was, I mean, she still looked young enough, so I would assume it was probably right at the tail end of Gilligan's Island's run, probably.
Well, I mean, that show was in the 60s, so...
So, yeah, I would say probably about tail end.
Yeah. I mean, I don't remember how long it ran.
Because I doubt if she would do that movie while being on Gilligan's Island.
Probably not, yeah.
So I would assume it probably just ended, and they probably, offered her it, and she took it. I mean, she's a very small role in it, so it's basically a cameo.
Yeah.
Is all she does.
I did read that she had apparently been in one of Charles Pierce's other films, so, they knew each other.
Yeah.
This was only her 4th movie ever.
Wow.
Yeah.
Gilligan's Island took up a lot of time.
Yep. It took up everybody's time. So, yeah, I am not a fan of this movie. And I find it very difficult to classify it as a horror movie other than mass serial killer.
Mm-hmm. Let's see, I'd categorize it as a horror film, but a very slow-paced horror film.
Yeah.
But on the other hand, what's really funny is we were discussing earlier, when we were, before the movie, it also kind of reminds me of where it could have went to something like the Poughkeepsie tapes.
Right.
That we were talking about. Very same kind of formula as far as the whole, like, pseudo-documentary feel to it. And I think if they, the times change, of course, but I think it's on par with stuff like that, just dated, like a dated version.
I could see that. The thing about, like, the Poughkeepsie tapes, which I don't expect any of our listeners to know about, because it is not officially available anywhere.
Just look it up on Wikipedia or something, and you can see the trailer on YouTube.
Yeah. But if you get your chance to watch it, it's actually a pretty good movie.
Mm-hmm.
But I would classify that as a horror because the horror scenes in that really work.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas, the horror scenes in this one, I feel they all just fell flat.
Again, but dated.
It is very dated.
And that's the thing. Like, I think if, because the Poughkeepsie tapes isn't necessarily violent either.
No.
It's really not. It's more of the uncomfortable subject matter of it that is what makes you kind of feel dirty while watching it.
Right.
And I'm sure maybe at the time of The Town That Dreaded Sundown, a lot of those kills might have made people uncomfortable.
Right.
Just because, people linking it to a real killer with real victims. While, yes, the names were changed, but, people were shot, people were stabbed, people were, tormented by this man.
They were, the filmmakers were sued at certain points by families of the real victims, because the movie did tread just close enough to the actual facts.
Mm-hmm.
I get that totally.
And I'm wondering, and for us now looking at it, that's why it may not work for you, but I'm wondering if then it worked. Like what the Poughkeepsie tapes and that stuff would work for us now.
Right.
If that was their, that was it extremely scary for people back then.
Right. Yeah, it's hard to say. Because at the same time, though, I've seen movies older than this that were generally, more tense, more frightening than this. And I think it just all comes down to this is, just slightly above amateur filmmaking.
Yeah, it's definitely a low budget.
Yeah.
It's a drive-in flick, is what it is. It's a double feature drive-in flick.
Yeah.
A cheapy, shot quick, low budget.
Right.
But
again, like I said, I watched The Evictors, which is another Charles Pierce movie, which had actors that I recognized in it, and it seemed to be a very accomplished piece. Again, not great, but at least it was put together well.
Yeah.
And seemed to be accomplishing what it set out to do. I think part of this movie, is just that it's, I would say, just from at the time, a relatively inexperienced filmmaker.
Could be.
Just, trying to pull everything together.
And a part of me wonders too, and I'm almost positive he is, that Charles B. Pierce grew up in the Texarkana area.
Oh, right, yeah.
And it makes you wonder if this was also just something that he did to, like, odes to his town.
Right.
Because it's, like I said, his other movie, Boggy Creek, is also, a folklore legend that people claim that is real, and then, then he takes the Phantom Killer, and I wonder if those were just cheapy movies that he knew that he could get the finance for.
Probably.
Because he could just find somebody with money and be like, hey, I'm going to make something on the Boggy Creek monster, and people are like, oh, well, yeah, here's money. Because on Boggy Creek, all the actors are actual townies. Right. So there is no, I think there's maybe one or two, legit actors, and then everybody else is literally the townspeople telling stories of how they seen it run across the street or, eat a potato or whatever.
Right. Fascinating.
And that one follows almost, it's a little more documentary style, but it's very similar in nature to Town That Dreaded Sundown.
Yeah.
So, that's what I'm wondering, if, because they were hometown legends for him, if they were just something that he made for the fun of them.
Right.
And then just would attach them to other movies that were showing at the drive-in, and they would just be like the second feature.
Right. Yeah, it's possible. But yeah, either way, I don't necessarily recommend this, but you do.
I would recommend it for people who... I wouldn't recommend it for everyone, though.
Right.
I would recommend it for people who have an interest in, like, true crime.
Right.
And, like, you know, the less-known serial killer type stuff.
But I have an interest in it.
Well, what's fascinating on the Phantom Killer is many people actually believe that the reason it stopped in real life is because, you know, he moved on. Because the whole end of that movie where he went into the swamp, that's all bullshit. Like, they never saw him. They never had, you know, the witnesses that survived his attacks are the only people that ever saw him.
Right.
Many people believe that he ended up moving on and he became the Zodiac Killer. The same MOs where he would prey on people in parked cars, and then he would get, you know, the military boots, shooting people through windows, all that kind of stuff. So many people believe that he became the Zodiac Killer, and then... So, like, that kind of stuff's fascinating. But again, that's not nowhere in the movie. That's stuff that you would have to read on your own.
Right.
But, I don't know. I would recommend it for true crime fans. I'd recommend it for people who have an interest in, you know, what would be considered, you know, modern classic horror. Because it's, like I said, a cult movie, and a lot of people recommend that you see it.
Yeah, I don't know. Cause...
But it is very slow. I mean, it is very slow.
I would, you know, again, you know, I have a fascination with true crime, especially serial killers. I obviously love horror. It's not good. Is just the bottom line of it. It is, all the hype that I have heard behind this movie is wrong.
But see, I'm wondering if maybe that's what also hurt it for you. You know, when I first seen it, there was no hype. I mean, it was just, I rented it from K&L Video right across what used to be right across the street from you.
Right.
And sat and watched it, and there was no hype. There was no, you know, no one recommended it to me. I just watched it.
But, you know, when I say hype, you know, it's not like I've got, like, you know, 100 people emailing me or calling me about it saying, "Oh, have you seen this yet?"
Yeah,
you
but
know,
like,
it's
websites and things like that always recommend it, and
yeah, you know, yeah, but no, I don't think that plays a part in this. To me, for hype to ruin something, you know, it's got to be something like a Dark Knight level kind of hype, you know, where just like everybody is claiming that this movie will cure my cancer, you know, and nobody ever said that about this movie. You know, it's just like, oh, it's a good classic horror movie you should watch, you know, and it's, I don't know. I did not enjoy it at all.
I just wondered, do you think maybe one of the reasons too is just because it's dated, and that maybe that's because it is definitely dated. It's
definitely dated, but at the same time, you know, it's a period film. Mm-hmm. You know, like, even though it was made in the 70s, it still takes place in the 40s.
Yeah.
So, you know, I don't think that's a factor in this. The only thing that's dated about it is the storytelling style of it. And, cause it is also very much like watching a very long episode of Dragnet. Mm-hmm. Because it's even got, you know, narration throughout it, mm-hmm. which is a poor storytelling choice in a movie. Movies with a voiceover, I hate them.
See, and again, I think the reason he went that is because he was going for that docudrama horror feel.
Right, which again, you know, that's like what Dragnet was.
Yeah.
You know, like they had, you know, Joe Friday, you know, narrating my story. It was Friday, August 6th.
I just got out of my car.
Yeah. It's unnecessary, especially when everything that the narrator said could have been told, like, through the actual storytelling of the movie. But they used the shorthand, and it just didn't work. It just falls flat. Yeah, I am just steadfast with the fact that I feel this is just a very bad movie.
Poor town that dreads Sundown. And there's nothing you liked about it. Nothing.
Not really. No.
Not even like kills women.
Some
Spark
attractive
plug.
ladies. The guy that played the sheriff was a fine actor. I enjoy seeing Marianne and things at all times.
Everyone should.
Better
Better than Ginger. That's all I'm saying.
Yep. No argument here. And I say that as a man who loves a redhead.
I'm saying that as a man dating a redhead.
Juliet's not a redhead.
Yeah. Red head. It's dyed, but I mean, she dyes it red, but...
Okay, yeah. Yeah.
You're like, oh, okay, well.
That has to be a recent thing, then.
No, it's off and on. I mean, because it's brown.
I've never
red.
seen her as a redhead.
Yeah. It's like a light red is usually what she dyes it. And
All right, whatever.
But Marianne. That's
Marianne.
That's
Yeah.
what matters.
Yep. Yeah, sorry.
It's okay. It's
But
okay.
it's my own fault. I picked it. I had my
You
list.
picked it.
You forced me to pick from my own list, even though the list was from you to pick for.
But see, I think this is cool though. It's a title that deserved at least to be on one of these gutter trashes Halloween things.
Yeah.
People can learn about it, hear our opinions.
I mean, part of it was I will say this, part of it for my disliking of it was that while trying to figure out what to watch, I was kind of maybe hoping for something kind of fun, and this was pretty much the opposite of what I wanted, or what at least I was in the mood for.
Yeah.
But, I'm also the kind of person that, whether I'm in the mood for something or not, if it's good...
You can get into it.
Yeah. And I just could not get into this movie.
Well, what would you recommend to your listener out there? What horror film right now would you recommend that they go see?
I don't know. I haven't seen a horror movie. Well, that's not true. My girlfriend and I watched Pontypool a couple days ago, which is probably one of my favorite horror movies of all time. It is also very slow-paced and very low budget, so much so that it is a zombie movie without zombies.
A zombie film without zombies.
Takes place entirely in a radio station. Entirely.
Is the zombies outside?
They are outside.
But they never show them.
Yeah, they kind of show them, but very briefly.
But he recommends that movie.
Huh?
He recommends that.
I do indeed, because it's kind of fun. It is very interesting. It is a zombie virus that the virus is not an infection that one transmits through bites or anything like that. It is a virus that is transmitted through the English language. Certain words will turn people into the zombies.
Very strange.
Words, usually words of endearment, are very familiar words that just for some reason take a strange foothold in your brain and infects you.
Well, here's one that I'd like to bring up, and I would like to see what you thought of it. Have you seen that movie called The ABCs of Death?
I have.
And what did you think of that?
That, for the listener, is a movie of 26 short films, each based on a letter of the alphabet. It's all horror. And, like any anthology, there's some good and there's some bad. The unfortunate thing about the ABCs of Death is that there are 26 of them, which means that there's only some good and, 20 bad.
See, I felt the same way. There was some of those segments that I was like, oh, that's cool. And then there was other ones where I was like, what am I watching?
Yep.
The one that I'm sure that you probably feel the same about was the one where the little Japanese girl
The farting
farts, and then this girl, there's a gas attack or something.
Yeah.
And the girl wants to die by smelling this other girl's farts.
Yep.
And it's the strangest, stupidest thing I think I've ever seen.
Yeah, I would, I definitely remember that. It's been about a year or two since I saw it, but I do definitely remember that one for sure. And I don't think that's even the worst one.
Now, there's some too that are just don't really make any sense.
Right.
And there's some that are like really. I'm not like a person that's easily shaken or anything like that, but there are some that there was one that like I was kind of like, what is the point? And it's not like uncomfortable, but it kind of is uncomfortable. Where it's the guy and he's trying to kill the girl in the bathtub, and it's like he like is torturing her and he injects her with like Drano or something, and she's like dying in this bathtub, and then like that's the whole payout is this poor girl like getting ready. Yeah, like that is just like I don't quite get it because most of them are really silly and dumb.
Right.
Like.
Oh yeah, like there's even a couple animated ones.
Yes, and like they're just silly and dumb. And then there's a few like serious ones. There's like that vampire one that's from like the first person view of the vampire, and he's like running through the woods, and like the preacher and all the people are chasing it down, and it almost has like an Evil Dead-ish kind of feel to it. Like that one's like cool and straight horror, but I don't know. That one was just kind of out of place because it was. Almost like they were trying to be shocking just to be like, I'm hardcore,
Right.
Look what I did.
Yeah.
But, yeah, I that's a movie that I would not recommend.
I generally wouldn't recommend that one either.
They are making a part 2, though,
they
unfortunately.
are, yeah. And I'll probably wind up watching it.
I'm sure I will.
Again, there'll be like 4 that are just great.
Yep.
Have you seen the VHS movies?
I have not. I actually do want to see those, though.
I would have actually picked one of those, except that I've already seen them like 3 times each.
Yeah, I heard they're excellent. Like, my brother recommended them to me, too, and said that he thought that I would like them. But I have not bitten the bullet yet and watched them.
I would recommend them. But the thing, again, it's an anthology, so there's a couple really good ones, and then there's a couple really weak ones. And I think that goes for both of the movies, VHS 1 and VHS 2.
Isn't the VHS guy, isn't he the one that's now making the new Friday the 13th movie next year?
I don't know, because there's, it's different directors, so.
I thought it was the guy, like the head guy, that put all the VHS stuff together.
I don't know.
I think he might be doing the new Friday the 13th.
Okay.
I mean, if those movies are good as far as like, he chose the right things and knew how to put it together, could be hope for the Friday the 13th thing.
Maybe. I don't know. Unless it's going to be a found footage Friday the 13th.
I know. Which that trend is getting, talk about beating a dead horse at this point.
Yeah, not a fan.
If done right,
it can
be good.
Yep.
But the problem is it's the same thing that horror has went through the ages. Like right now, it's like a lot of the low budget stuff is found footage, straight found footage. And that's all, I blame that resurgence, like Blair Witch and Last Broadcast and all that started the big trend of it.
Right.
Then it died down. And then once those Paranormal Activity movies started, then it brought it back up. Yeah. Just like there for a while where every horror film had to be 3D.
Right.
It's in 3D.
Well, every movie has to be in 3D.
A lot of them now, yeah. But the other trend that's really starting to get on my nerves in the horror genre is the possession / ghost movies that are all like PG. And they rely on just the, scares. There's no real incentives. It's just the loud noise. Oh, the window fell.
Right.
Oh, and people scream in the theater. That stuff is starting to get on my nerves a little bit too. Don't get me wrong. Some of it, just like on any kind of genre and things, there's good ones and then there's bad ones. But I just can't wait for it to kind of move away from the possession and ghost movies. Like, please, start going away from it a little bit.
I can't think of one I've seen.
Oh, I've seen so many. The Conjuring, The Last Exorcism. I mean, and they go on and on and on.
Yeah, I saw The Last Exorcism, which I thought was actually pretty enjoyable.
It's that and The Conjuring. That's why I mentioned those two, because they are actually decent ones. They're like the good ones out of that trend.
I did not see The Conjuring. I did see the first Paranormal Activity, which I liked.
Mm-hmm.
Did not see any of the sequels.
You don't waste it. The first one's okay because it has some cool moments to it. From there on, it kind of just
I have zero interest in seeing any of the sequels. I had zero interest from the jump. As soon as they said, hey, sequels are coming, I said, no, thank you.
Nah, I'll stick with this one.
And then when they said, hey, here's a sequel especially for Latinos, I said, especially no thank you.
Not going to do it.
Nope. Cause, as a half Latino, I do not need you to, specifically tailor a horror movie to me, because I'm gonna watch a horror movie anyway.
So you didn't want to see Paranormal Activity, the marked ones?
Nope.
I did not either. I didn't waste my time on that one.
No. Let's see. I did like Insidious.
Insidious is good.
Yeah.
And I like the second one on that one too.
I have not seen that yet.
Second one's pretty good.
Yeah. Let's see. I know I've been, since I started dating my girlfriend, I've been, forcing her to watch, various, old horror movies that I enjoy, because, she has not seen any of them. We often find ourselves in arguments over, whether a movie was good or bad, where she clearly enjoyed it, and she clearly thought it was a good movie, but keeps saying that it's very bad. Such as From Dusk Till Dawn.
Oh, wow.
Or,
she keeps saying From Dusk Till Dawn is bad?
She's like, it's such a bad movie, but I loved it. That kind of thing.
Movie.
Huh?
But it's not a bad movie.
No, it's not. And that's the thing. But the thing is, it's one of those things where they did it on purpose to be bad.
Yeah.
Like, any part of it that is bad is done because that's what they wanted.
Top. Yeah.
Right, yeah. And she's like, so we just get getting into this, all of this philosophical arguments over, is it a bad movie if they make it bad on purpose? It's like, well, no, because that's what they wanted to do. So it's actually a really good movie.
Yeah. It's like Machete.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, it's meant to be that way.
Right. But the reason we watched From Dusk Till Dawn was because, for some fucking reason, I felt the overwhelming desire to watch all 10 episodes of the From Dusk Till Dawn television series.
I have not seen those because I've heard nothing but bad.
Don't!
Yeah.
Ever watch it. It is the most pointless thing in the world.
Where did those even originally air?
The El Rey Network. Which is Robert Rodriguez's own network, I guess.
Gotcha.
And I guess part of that was that he decided that he was going to remake the From Dusk Till Dawn movie and stretch it out to 10 hours instead of just being a perfect little 2-hour schlock fest.
Is there any known actors in this thing?
Or? Oh yeah. Let's see. The Michael Parks part as the sheriff that gets killed in the first 5 minutes of the movie is played by Don Johnson.
Nice.
Let's see. The Harvey Keitel role is played by Robert Patrick, your friend and mine.
Yes. Mr. Patrick.
Yes.
Got to Twitter that.
Wilmer Valderrama is in it. Fez from that.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, there are
Some
recognizable
names.
actors in it. Yeah.
LB.
But yeah, it is. The From Dusk Till Dawn the movie is 2 hours long, something like that. From Dusk Till Dawn the TV show is the movie. It's the same plot, but it is stretched out over 10 episodes.
That's weird that he would do it that way.
Yeah. So, in the movie starts out with, the gas station robbery scene, which takes about 5 minutes to get through. It is 2 episodes of the TV show.
Well, they wanted to make it more dramatic.
Right, yeah.
And they paid Don Johnson, so that, damn it, they wanted Don Johnson in shots.
Yeah. But everything that they add to the the mythology of the vampires, it doesn't add anything good. In fact, actually, just makes it more awful.
Who plays Salma Hayek's part?
Some skinny little Mexican chick.
Oh, so no Salma Hayek.
No
basically.
Salma Hayek. Yeah.
Man.
Which, yeah, oh yeah, I forgot I can't believe I forgot this. You asking me if there's any named people in here?
Paul Rubens.
No.
Oh.
No. Close.
Cheech me.
No. Because he was in the original.
Yep.
He played 3 roles in the original.
Martin Short.
No. So, you, of course, remember from the movie the character of Sex Machine.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Mr. Tom Savini.
Tom Savini himself. Your friend and mine.
Yeah. Another classic man.
Yeah. Sex Machine in the television series is played by Mr. Jake Busey.
Oh, jeez. Who plays Fred Williams in part?
Some guy.
Wow, they didn't even cast the name.
Nope. And his role is basically limited to like 10 minutes in one episode.
Wow.
Yeah.
They just throw him to the wolves.
Yep.
Wow.
Yep. He is basically a non-character in the TV show.
And he has one of the best speeches in the movie.
Uh-huh, yeah.
When he's talking about pretending he's dead.
Yep. Killing all the gooks. Yep.
Climbing through. And I just kept stabbing. And stabbing.
Yep.
Man.
Non-character in the TV show. It's a piece of shit. I like, literally, I want to spend the next 2 hours detailing, like,
why it's so bad.
Yeah.
Well, I probably will never watch it. I will skip that, probably.
Yeah, you should.
Unless I find it, like, on DVD for, like, $1, and then maybe Morbid Curiosity will kick in, and I'll be like,
And the thing is, like, it's on Netflix, and it's essentially free. The fee that you pay to have Netflix. But the thing, like, I watched, like, the first 3 episodes, and I was like, this is terrible. Why do I not stop watching it?
But then you realized it's only 10 episodes, and you're like, I have to complete it.
I did, and I went through the whole thing.
You hoped it was getting better.
It never got better. It just kept getting worse.
Is it violent?
It's violent, it's gory, it's got vampires in it. And that's the thing, like, the movie does, like, the perfect thing, where, like, if for some reason you were able to go and watch From Dusk Till Dawn without knowing a thing about it, like, at the 45-minute mark, when all of a sudden, suddenly vampires, and you're just like, what the fuck? It's amazing! But, like, in the first episode, they, like, start hinting at the vampires. And, and there's snake people.
Well, they were kind of snake people in that, too. They got, like,
really.
the weird scaly skin, like...
But they also all turned into bats and stuff, and bat creatures, and...
Yeah.
But
But remember Salma Hayek, when she turned and she puts her head down, she kind of has, like, a snaky
a little bit
to her.
So I think that's what they were pulling from, was just that one moment, because all the other vampires in the movie are, like, traditional vampires.
Yeah.
And, like, Tom Savini turns into a giant rat.
Was that in the TV show?
Nope.
No giant rat.
No giant rat.
No, man.
Because Sex Machine is actually an undercover archaeology professor.
Well, yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah.
Does he still have the little PP gun thing?
He does indeed. He uses it, like, once.
Speaking of the little PP gun,
Machete
Kills, have you seen that?
I have not.
Oh, the little PP gun has an appearance in
I'll get around to it.
You need to. It has little PP guns in it.
It's on Netflix. I'll watch it. I'm upset that I did not get to see it in the theater.
Me too. I had to miss it in the theater as well.
Yeah.
It didn't last long.
No, it did not.
Like, I went to go see it, because that was back when I was seeing, like, a movie or two a week.
Right.
And I went to check it, and, like, the local theater must have only ran it for a week, because by the next week I came to see it, and it was gone.
Yeah.
And it was almost the same thing as Lords of Salem. Like, if you didn't see it in that first week, good luck, because you weren't going to see it.
It was there for one weekend.
Yep.
Yeah.
I was lucky enough to catch that one. I did catch that one.
I did catch that one also.
What'd you think of that?
It was awful.
Agreed. I will say it was a terrible movie. I will say, out of all of Zombie's things, next to, as far as, like, House of a Thousand Corpses and Devil's Rejects, you can tell he made the movie that he wanted to make.
Right.
And then he made those Halloween movies, which the first one was good. That second one's a piece of shit.
Haven't seen it.
It's a piece of shit. And I will say, like, you can tell Zombie's heart was into that movie,
right.
Lords of Salem. Like, you could tell, like, he had passion for it, but most of the time, like, he just tries to do that same old bullshit Rob Zombie, like, shock you kind of stuff with, like, the weird face priest, like, jerking off, and then, like, and it adds nothing to the movie, so you're just like, why is this here? Like, you're building up this character was a recovering drug addict and all this, and these witches are basically trying to manipulate her brain.
Right.
And then all of a sudden, oh yeah, by the way, there's just like a hallway full of jerking off priests. Isn't that awesome? And I'm controversial. And it was like,
I don't think that was what he was going for.
I don't know.
I think there was stuff that was cut out of the movie. I know that much for sure. So I think that all had something to do with that.
Maybe some of the cut footage.
I think the problem with the movie is that he was wearing his influences way too much on his sleeve in that movie. You know, trying really hard to be, you know, Stanley Kubrick and, you know...
A lot of Italian and
a lot of Italian, like Giallo stuff, yep. You know, a lot of, just mid-70s horror, you know, slow burn movies, because it was slow.
Yeah.
You know, and I felt that it was just, you know, he's not a great writer.
No.
So, you know, terrible dialogue.
I will say that was the best performance that I've seen out of his wife.
Yeah.
I mean, she's actually legitimately likable throughout that whole movie.
For the most part.
So I will say that as for her, it's really shown that she's grown as an actress. Because, I mean, does she do good as Baby from the you know, House of a Thousand? Yeah, she does good, but is that really...
It's not really a character.
No, it's just like her giggling and, you know, and like, I'm gonna burn you, you know, and that kind of stuff. This, she actually shows range.
Yeah,
she has to show range in it.
I think, you know, the Lords of Salem was, I think, his most proficient movie.
Mm-hmm.
You know, you definitely can tell that he is figuring out how to be a filmmaker.
Mm-hmm.
It's just, I think he needs someone to come in and, you know, like, I don't know if this is a thing that exists, but I think his screenwriting needs editing. He needs someone to redline, you know, some stuff and say, hey, you need to rethink this and you need to do this.
Well, I would like to see him actually have to shoot a actual script from somebody else.
Right.
That's not like something that he's meddling in.
Right.
Cause I think it may help him as a director bring out a more creative side, because when it's not your own,
right,
you have to try to adapt to somebody else's style. And I think that may help him. Right. Because again, like what you were saying, he's doing his own, but he's showing, like, hey, I just ripped this shot from this, and hey, this is totally this movie. And
I think what maybe he needs is, you know, he can come up with a story idea, you know, but then get an actual screenwriter, you know, to do the script, you know, and take his ideas and flesh them out and make them into, you know, something solid that he can build from.
Yeah. Well, I'm excited to see what he does with that 31 that he's working on. It's his new project.
Okay.
It sounds interesting. It's like a game show type thing, where almost like a Running Man kind of thing, but instead it's like, you know, like other killers and that kind of stuff are in there. Almost like that. Have you seen that low budget movie called Slashers?
Not seen it, but I know of it. Yeah,
it sounds kind of similar to that, but just more gritty.
Right.
Like where Slashers is gritty. I mean, it's bloodbath, but it's a
funny.
low budget movie. You know, so I don't know. It's like Manhunt, the video game, you know, turned into a movie. So we'll see if it's any good.
The last thing I heard from him was that he was actually working on a new album. So,
yep. Yeah. And 31. So it sounds like 31 and new album is his destiny, because it looks like he gave up on that Tyrannosaurus Rex movie that he wanted to make, and then the Blob remake that he was attached to. So it
Yeah.
looks like those are dead in the water at this point.
The Blob really need to be remade again, though.
Nah.
Yeah.
Because the original is still a solid movie, and then
Yeah.
that 80s remake is a solid movie, so you don't need to touch it again.
Yeah.
Certain things don't need to be touched.
Nope. I'm trying to think of anything else horror related that I've seen recently.
Did you see Tusk?
No, and nor will I.
It's kind of a piece of crap.
Yeah, well, it's Kevin Smith.
It's Kevin Smith, who is one of my least favorite directors of all time.
Yep.
And that movie, I don't even know how to describe it.
It's Justin Long gets turned into a walrus.
A walrus man.
Yeah, by Michael Parks.
And I will say the fun story on that is, so I kept torturing Juliet that we were going to go see it.
Uh-huh.
And because it was just like those others. Like, if you didn't see it, I think it lasted like 2 weeks in the theater and then it was gone.
Right.
And I kept harassing her and kept saying that this was like her most anticipated movie of the year and all that. And we get there, and me and Juliet like to, well, at least I do. I like to get there early. Because I like getting good seats. I like already having my drink and all that. And,
I'm with you. Absolutely.
you know, get there right before that first look comes on and all that. So we get there, and there's nobody in the theater. First look goes off, nobody in the theater. You know, the commercials now that they play in between go on, nobody in the theater. Trailers come on, nobody in the theater. And then I realized we were the only two dopes to pay to see Tusk in the theater.
Nice.
No one else ever joined us.
Yeah.
It was just us. And
You know, that's my preferable movie-going experience.
yes, especially for this, because I was able to, like, react to things. Like,
Okay.
oh my god, you know?
Right.
Like, why am I watching this? Like, what is this? And the thing that's the most dumbfounding is when you go onto social media sites,
Uh-huh.
the people who are proclaiming that this movie is like, Tusk is great.
Right.
And I feel like taking them to the side and going, is there moments of Tusk that are good? Yes. There's some genuine moments that work really well in that movie. And then the shitty Kevin Smith dialogue and the shitty Kevin Smith writing comes through. There's one whole scene that lasts for about 15 to 20 minutes. And it's literally this stupid, dopey fucking character that's played by Johnny Depp sits there, and it's like he's doing like googly eyes, like crossing his eyes and stuff, and he's telling these stories that is the most stupidest fucking scene I've ever seen in a movie. I don't know. And he's making a sequel to it. This movie bombed, and he's making a sequel.
Well, I heard he was making Clerks 3 instead.
He is making Clerks 3. He's making Clerks 3, and this thing that's like Yoga Hosers is the sequel to Tusk.
Oh, no. It's a trilogy of Canadian horror films. So it's not a direct sequel to Tusk.
Well, I heard they're playing some of them are playing the same characters.
Okay.
Johnny Depp's characters coming back and being the same. And then, what's his name? The Haley Joel Osment and the girl from that are coming back, and they're playing the same characters.
That kid has not aged well.
No, this is what's weird. Like, you like, people say, like, oh, he looks weird and blah, blah, blah. His body looks normal. It's his fucking head. Like, when they show him in the trailer, you're like, what the fuck is wrong with him? But then you see him, like, in the movie, and you're like, oh, he's like a normal dude besides his head. It's his head that's misproportioned.
There was a television program that aired last spring. It's currently on Netflix. It's called The Spoils of Babylon. It's like 6 episodes long. It's a comedy with Tobey Maguire and Kristen Wiig and Will Ferrell and Haley Joel Osment. And that was like the first time that I had seen him since, The Sixth Sense, honestly. Mm-hmm. And it was just like, what the fuck?
His head's weird, isn't it?
His head is like a pumpkin.
Yes.
His head is like a pumpkin with a very tiny drawn-on face.
His head is like the Elephant Man without the deformities, if
Yeah.
that makes sense.
Uh-huh,
It's like huge, and like he still kind of has like that baby face too.
Absolutely.
Which makes it even more awkward and weird looking. And I'm not making fun of the guy, whatever.
No, yeah.
But
it's like his whole entire body grew up, except for his face.
yes.
Like, his face stayed the exact same proportions while the rest of him grew.
Yes. He's a strange looking man.
Uh-huh.
He's a strange looking man.
Yep.
But I also seen Annabelle, and that was alright.
Yeah.
But I've seen a lot of movies.
The last movie that I got to see in a theater, other than the riff tracks of Godzilla, the last actual movie I saw was Guardians of the Galaxy.
Wow. So the last one I just seen was on Wednesday. I seen that Walk Among the Tombstones.
Yeah, how was that?
It was excellent.
Yeah.
If you like film noir and detective movies, because that's clearly what it is,
Yeah.
which by the trailer, you wouldn't gather that. You would think that it's like kind of like a horror thriller, action-y kind of movie, and it's not that at all. It's literally a film noir
I've heard decent things.
mixed with horror film. It was excellent. It was absolutely excellent. I recommend that one.
Yeah. I don't watch trailers anymore. I don't know if you know that.
I usually try to avoid them.
Yeah.
The only time I see them is in theater.
Yeah.
Like I'll watch them, when I go there because that's how I want to learn. I don't want to use YouTube or
Yep.
Apple trailers or whatever. Fuck that. I don't want to sit and watch it on my computer.
Yep.
I want to see it on the big screen.
Yep. But yeah, I don't have too much time to see movies in theaters anymore. Once Bambi and I started dating, that kind of killed a lot of the free time that I used to have for seeing a movie, which is perfectly okay.
Yeah.
I would much rather hang out with a pretty lady than see a movie. And she's not much of a moviegoer.
Oh, she doesn't like the movies.
She likes movies. She just doesn't like going to the theater. And actually, like our second date, I tried to get her to go see a movie with me. And she was like, I really don't want to go. And I was like, I don't particularly like going, because it was a Friday. I was like, I'm not usually a huge fan of going out to see a movie on a Friday night. But, I'd really like to see this movie with you. And she was like, let's not. And I said, okay.
So did you ever get to see it with her?
No.
Wow.
And then when she found out what the movie was, she was like, oh, I would have seen that.
And what movie was this?
It was the Grand Budapest Hotel.
So you wanted to see it. She didn't want to see it. Then she found out what it was. Then she wanted to see it, and it was probably out of theaters by then.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
But, I did convince her to see Captain America Winter Soldier, on our third or fourth date, which she reluctantly agreed to and then loved it.
Good.
Where she saw the trailer for Guardians of the Galaxy and immediately said, we need to see that movie.
And did she like that one?
She loved that movie.
I think that's a universal hit amongst men and women. I noticed.
Because it's a great movie.
It's a good movie.
It's a fantastic movie.
It's a good movie.
Yep.
I don't know where I would place it yet. I'm going through my head on what my favorite superhero movie of this year was. It's definitely going to be high. But, Cap was
really
great.
Good. It was very good.
X-Men was great.
Yep.
I mean, there's a lot of good contenders for the good superhero movies this year.
There's three contenders.
Well, one that was a surprise hit for me was the Hercules movie with The Rock.
I don't consider that a superhero movie.
It's based on a comic. It's actually based on that, I forget what company put it out. It's
based on mythology.
It is, but it's not. See, that's what's really cool about it. It takes the route of the comic book, and it was surprisingly really good. Like, you would think it'd just be a dumb, action rock movie.
It looked awful.
It's not. It's actually decent. It's fun.
Alright.
And then, like, even Ninja Turtles, it's a kind
refuse to see it.
It's alright. That's how I say it. Like, it surprised me. Like, I thought it was going to be another Michael Bay just piece of shit, like most of his stuff is. And I was actually surprised by it. Like, I left and I was like, they had the essence of the Turtles there. Like, the banter between the brothers, the Turtles was perfect. Like, I'm glad to see that I think Nickelodeon, who now owns the Turtles, stepped in and was like, all the stupid alien and stupid bullshit you wanted to do, like, throw it out the window and make us a turtle movie. And I think that's what he ended up delivering. So I don't know. It's all right. Like I said, I wouldn't like highly recommend it. I wouldn't say, oh, you got to see it or anything.
Yeah, I'm not gonna see it.
If it ever is on like your precious Netflix, and you're bored, like check it out. Like it's one of those type.
It's not gonna happen.
Ever. Well, you don't like Turtles?
I got no problem with Turtles.
You like Turtles 3?
Never saw it.
Never seen Turtles 3?
Never seen Turtles 3.
What about Turtles 2?
Yeah, I saw that in the theater. Yeah.
Turtles 2 is awesome.
Yeah.
Turtles 2 is still my favorite. I don't care what anyone says.
I like the animated one that came out a couple years ago.
Yeah, that one wasn't too bad.
Yeah.
That one wasn't too bad. I enjoyed the fact that they tied it into this live action.
Yeah.
It was literally just the fourth movie.
Yeah.
And they just probably took the cheaper route instead of making the animatronic suits and all that again and just said, just make it animated.
Yeah.
What do you think of the Ghostbuster news, though?
I'm fine with it.
What part are you fine with?
I'm fine with it being a reboot, and I'm fine with it being an all-female cast.
Fine with the all-female cast. Doesn't bother me. I'm a little disappointed because after all this time, they've always said, oh no, like the older guys would be there, but they're going to take the back seat and let the new cast, and it's like the passing of the torch, which is what I wanted. Like, it would be nice to see that come to an end.
Bill Murray was never going to do it.
I don't know. If you listen to, who is it? Reitman, isn't it? Ivan Reitman?
Uh-huh.
If you listen to what Ivan Reitman's last interview that he did, he said Bill Murray always says he's not doing these movies, and he said don't discount it. Like, if when it comes time, Bill Murray will show up and do his part, and then, that would be that. But I just don't like the fact that they teased all the way up that, you're going to see Aykroyd again, and you're going to see Ernie Hudson, and
well, they
Annie
did
Potts.
that when they were all on board. But Bill Murray was never on board. B, Harold Ramis died.
I know, which just sucks.
And so I think that was the breaking point, and they said, well, let's just scrap it. Let's just make Dan Aykroyd some money and put it to bed.
My biggest problem with it is, and I think we're going to get, is, I have nothing against her, but Melissa McCarthy, she's probably going to get casted as one of the Ghostbusters.
Sure. Why not?
And my problem with her, is she funny? Yeah, sometimes. Not all the time. But she's definitely almost got the Adam Sandler repeating joke kind of bullshit going on now, where it's like, how many movies do I have to see her where she tries to outrun somebody and she runs like 2 feet and then she's huffing for breath? Tammy, identity theft. I mean, it's like movies in a row.
Here's the thing. I never saw those movies.
I know.
Because I have discerning tastes.
But, people who are fans of her is going to see, I have a sinking feeling you're going to see the same bullshit gimmicks and same jokes from these people.
Yeah. I give it the benefit of the doubt.
I don't know.
Until I see a trailer or I'm actually in the theater.
I think I kind of lost interest in it, and it's kind of sad.
Yeah.
Because I was actually looking forward to it.
The thing is, I was never interested in Ghostbusters 3.
Like I said, I don't think necessarily, even a Ghostbusters 3 is necessary. I'm one of those people that, when they acted like even after, Harold Ramis died, that they were still going to do, with Ernie Hudson, and it was them, and it was basically them older and needing to turn the business over to somebody else because, they couldn't do it anymore.
Yeah.
I don't understand why they couldn't just do that.
Right.
Even if it is just Ernie Hudson and Dan Aykroyd, well, I mean, what's it going to hurt to put them in the movie for 10, 15 minutes and appease the people that you promised from the beginning? Because, they've promised that since the beginning.
Yeah, I don't care.
I don't know.
I never cared.
See, I did.
It's Ghostbusters. They're fine movies. And
I did.
I could care less if there was ever another one.
See, to me, there was another one. Because I will say that video game that came out, Ghostbusters, the video game,
yeah.
actually now going to have to be the straight third movie. All the cast are there, the voices are there,
Sure.
references to the other movies with Vigo
I believe that's what they said when they made that game.
Yeah, well, they basically were saying that if they never get the financing for the other movie, and then it kind of pisses me off that, who is it, Fox, I believe, dragged their fucking feet this whole time, and then all of a sudden, the guy who makes Bridesmaids is like, oh, I'll come and help him, and then they're like, oh, we'll give you the money.
It's because he's a successful director who has a couple of hits under his belt.
I don't know.
I don't know why you have a problem.
And I know what's his name was going to step in too at one point. When Judd Apatow was going to step in.
Oh, and at that point, I would say, well, fuck that.
Well, yeah,
because he's terrible.
I agree, but wasn't he attached to it at one point or something?
No idea.
I know he was attached to the where they're trying to get another Pee-wee movie off the ground. And, like, he was going to help try to produce it because he figured, like, the studios were kind of shaky about putting money, and he was saying, well, I'll put money and then do it through that.
But there was someone writing it with him. I can't remember, but it was someone relatively cool.
Yeah.
I can't remember who that was.
And I wish there would be some sort of news on that.
Yeah, it's been a while.
Yeah. And because that's another movie that I would love to see eventually just come out.
Again, I wouldn't, and that may have something to do with a couple years ago. Me, Jason, Brian John Mitchell, and maybe Pat Kane I believe we were in Columbus, and we were hanging out in our hotel room after a convention or something, and the Pee Wee Herman special came on, the newest one, the revival of that old original HBO special, and it was awful. It was fucking awful.
Yeah, but see, again though, I think the movies always stood away from, because that was more of like Pee-wee's Playhouse, which became Pee-wee's Playhouse. Like, Pee-wee's Big Adventure and Big Top Pee-wee were more just, there was none of the silly, like, Talking Flowers or anything like that.
But still, I only saw Pee-wee's Big Adventure. I didn't see any of the sequels to that one. And it's another thing where it's just, I don't care.
Pee-wee's Big Adventure is amazing.
Yeah, it's a great movie.
It's one of my favorite Tim Burton movies.
Yeah, it's a fine movie.
Next to Ed Wood.
Yeah. Tim Burton used to make good movies. We get it.
He did. He used to make fantastic films.
Yeah. Hopefully someday he'll make another one. He hasn't in a while. Pee-wee's whatever. I don't care.
Pee-wee's whatever. I don't care.
Yeah. Ghostbusters, whatever. I don't care. Anything from my childhood, whatever. I don't care. I don't care if you make one. I don't care if you don't.
I do. I like continuation. I'm a story person.
I am too. I like stories that end.
See, I don't. I like the never-ending story. Atreyu and his horse.
I hated that movie because it never ended.
Never? Was his mom played a cruel joke on him and she hit it on repeat? So when he said he watched it, it literally never ended for him. That would be a cruel joke to play on somebody. Just cut all the movies together, and then it would be one long movie, and people would be like, holy shit, this movie really never ends.
It's called HBO. Yeah. Yeah, I don't know. The nostalgia has its place, but, I have no desire to see the stuff from my childhood regurgitated in another form.
See, I like seeing it.
I mean, if they do, and it's great, awesome, let's do it. But, but at the same time, I'm not clamoring for anything.
See, I would love to see...
I don't need there to be an Alf movie to validate my existence.
But like something like Ghostbusters, of course I'd like to see a third film with the, remaining original cast. And if they did, a Gremlins, I would of course want it to be a sequel, not a remake. Because I think that's kind of getting to the point of now where it's it's the same thing in the world of video games. I don't need remakes and just origin stories of characters over and over. And
no one does.
And I don't need an Assassin's Creed game every year, and I don't need a Call of
Assassin's
Duty
Creed game any time.
But you know what I mean? Call of Duty, and it's like the same regurgitated
But that's
shit
what you're just asking for, though.
No, because I'd rather have a continuation of like the story as far as like for Ghostbusters. I'd like to see instead of, oh, well, the other ones didn't exist. Here's now they're girls, and here's this, and it's a comedy made by the, you know.
But you don't know what it's going to... You literally know nothing about what it's going to be.
I know it's a reboot, though.
You don't even really know that.
He said, the Bridesmaid guy said it's a reboot and that it does not tie into the original films.
Did he say that?
Yes.
Okay.
The articles that I read, which was on like IGN and all that, were saying that he's saying it does not tie into the originals. Don't expect cameos from anybody.
Then, here's this. Other than that, and you know that it's an all-female cast, and you know the director, you literally know nothing about the story at this point other than a title.
I know.
You literally know nothing about it.
I know, and I can still be disappointed. Like I said, I'll give it the benefit.
You're already disappointed.
Of course, that's what I'm saying.
Based on nothing.
I can be disappointed that it's not a third
you are
series.
Angry at nothing.
I'm angry that it's not a third.
You are angry at nothing. You are using my best trick. You are angry at nothing.
I'm angry because there's no Dan Aykroyd. Why must they cut Dan out?
Because he is busy trying to get funding for Blues Brothers 3000.
That's coming?
No, I don't. God, I hope not.
That's coming?
God, I hope not.
Well, Jim Belushi and John Goodman are back on.
Jim Belushi wasn't in the second one.
I thought he was. I thought he had like a cameo.
Maybe he did. I don't know. I saw it once and wanted to kill myself. Because that movie is the worst.
What? How's it the worst?
It's the worst. It is the worst of anything.
Next thing you're going to know.
The town that dreaded Sundown is better than Blues Brothers 2000.
Oh, wow.
If anything, because it is 3 hours shorter.
Blues Brothers 2000. Is that the worst movie you think you've ever seen?
Probably not, but it's in the bottom 10.
Wow.
For sure. For sure.
What is the worst movie you've ever seen?
Off the top of my head, I am going to say Ultraviolet.
I barely even remember that movie.
Yeah, I saw that in the fucking theater.
Did you walk out?
No.
The
person that I was with loved it.
I hate when that happens.
A similar situation happened when that same person and I went to see Resident Evil 2.
Resident Evil 2 is a major letdown.
It's a horrible movie.
When they turned Nemesis into a good guy, I was dumbfounded.
When they walked through a graveyard.
Well, yeah. Zombies are coming back. Why not? I think the worst movie I've seen that I can, off the top of my head, and it was something I seen in the theater, was The Ninth Gate. I fucking hated that movie so bad.
I like The Ninth Gate.
Oh, God. That's the only movie, swear to God, that's the only movie I left the theater before it was over. And the girl that I took there, like, on a pseudo date, like, we were the only people in there, again, and she hated it just as much as I did, and we were both just so miserable watching it that it was like one of those things like, hey, do you want to just go? Yeah. Okay, let's go do something else.
I like The Ninth Gate.
Oh, God.
Movies I walked out of Spawn.
What? What's fun?
Because it was terrible. And I walked out of The Crow, City of Angels.
That one's not too bad.
It's not good.
But I'm surprised you walked out on it, though.
Because it was not good.
Yeah, but I thought you would stick with that one. Like, that's not... You know what I mean? Like, pile of shit, you know?
Pile of shit movie I did not walk out on was Ghost Rider. Let's see. I know that there are thousands of movies that Netflix thinks I love because I watched like the first 10 minutes of it and said, fuck this. And now it just thinks, because you watched, here's something recommended for you.
And it's another movie just like it?
Probably, yeah.
Like Ghost Rider 2?
Sure, yeah.
Did you watch Ghost Rider 2?
I watched about half an hour of Ghost Rider 2.
Ghost Rider 2 is, I think, a comedy. I'm almost positive that that's not an action movie, that it's a comedy.
Then I failed to see where the funny parts were.
The funny parts are the absolute terrible acting of Nicolas Cage. There is a scene where he is transforming into Ghost Rider, and they have him on the bike, and he's supposedly driving, like 100 miles an hour, and he is making these stupid-ass fucking faces on the bike as he's supposedly getting ready to turn into the Ghost Rider. I'm almost positive it's a comedy. I don't see how anyone could take that movie serious.
Well, I mean, it was directed by the guys who did Crank. I saw the trailer for Ghost Rider Spirit of Vengeance and said, well, this looks like the movie that I would want to see. And then I watched a half hour of it and I said, no, it is not.
No.
Because it's
bad.
It's terrible and boring.
It's
bad. His Ghost Rider Vengeance penance stare thing, he does it like 6 times in a row and each time takes like 10 minutes.
It's bad.
It's a terrible, terrible, terrible fucking movie. The only amusing part I found was the villain who, when he touches things, they rot, and he grabs a Twinkie, and it's the only thing that he can eat. Because it did rot in his hand, because it's a Twinkie.
And Twinkies last forever.
Exactly.
Twinkie the Kid lives on.
Yeah. I will say this, did you ever see the movie Drive Angry?
No.
No? That is the movie that Ghost Rider should have been.
That's what I heard. I heard that one's pretty good.
It is pretty fun. I like William Fichtner. He's good and stuff, even though he was also in Ultraviolet. But yeah, Drive Angry is the movie that Ghost Rider should have been. It's about a guy who escapes from hell in a fast vehicle. He's got a shotgun that shoots hellfire, and he is fighting devil worshippers. It's, the devil's in it.
Nick Cage.
Yeah, and Nick Cage. Yeah. And he gets his eye shot out in it. It's the movie that Ghost Rider should have been.
Instead, we got Ghost Rider.
Exactly. With Sam Elliott riding with him through the desert, only to turn around at the last minute and say, well, bye.
Yeah, that was pretty great. It's like, one last ride, and then they
It was literally a last ride.
And then he's like, yep, the battle's about to happen, I'll see you later.
Oh, what a piece of shit.
That's probably, those Ghost Rider movies are up there with some of the worst comic book movies ever made.
Yeah.
It's up there with Elektra.
I never saw that.
Oh, God, that was bad. It's Elektra and, for me, Batman Forever. I fucking hate Batman Forever.
Here's my we on the Stupid Sexy podcast, we talk about Batman pretty much every episode, the Batman movies. And I have a very special relationship with Batman and the Batman movies in that my opinion is not the same as every single other person on the face of the planet's. I think Batman and Robin is the best Batman movie.
I enjoyed that one.
I think Batman Forever is pretty close.
God, that sucks. I fucking hate that one.
I feel like the Tim Burton movies are not as good as everyone always thought they were. And I do not like the Christopher Nolan movies.
I think...
But, of course, the best Batman movie is Batman 66, of course. Yeah.
And the last one, all the way. I think the original Batman movie by Burton holds up.
Yeah.
I still watch it, and I enjoy it.
Oh, it's enjoyable.
I don't think
it's good.
Batman Returns doesn't date as well.
Yeah.
Like as a kid, I loved it and all that. And I still think it's a decent movie. Batman Forever, I seen on my birthday at the drive-in when it came out, and I hated it then. And I don't know. I think the reason I hate it is I'm not a Jim Carrey fan to begin with, and Jim Carrey's just Jim Carrey in it. Like, there's no
I mean, it's not a great movie by any stretch of the
Oh my
imagination.
god! And Tommy Lee Jones as Two-Face is
You
probably
mean Tommy Lee Jones as Jack Nicholson?
is probably the stupidest fucking thing I've ever seen on a film. And then Batman and Robin is literally where it was heading. With Batman Forever, it was on its way to be the goofy kids movie.
Yeah.
And I mean, that's what they delivered. It's a kids movie.
But, I watched Batman and Robin not that long ago, and, things were happening in it, and I was like, if this were happening in a comic, I would think it's the greatest Batman comic ever made. Mm-hmm. And so that changed my opinion on that movie entirely.
Yeah. I think people are always too hard on a lot of that stuff.
Yeah.
And I think that's one that unfairly gets judged harshly.
Yeah.
Is there stupid shit? Yes.
Of course.
The back credit card, okay, yeah, that's dumb.
Nipples.
Yeah.
Alicia Silverstone.
I mean, there's a lot of dumb things in it. But
Poison Ivy dressed as a gorilla.
what? Come on.
It's fantastic.
She was dancing as the...
It's fantastic, and it's awful, and it's great, and I love it, and it's the worst.
But, it's no different than... I mean, how they treated even the Superman franchise.
Yeah.
Because if you look, the first two are serious. More so than by part 3 with Richard Pryor. That's when the really solid kids movie was coming through. And then by the 4th, it's just straight a silly kids movie with Nuclear Man. And, it's the same treatment that DC gave to that. I mean, and it's. I
would rather watch those 4 movies at any time than watch Man of Steel ever again. But I won't get into that. He murders people!
He does.
That's a horror movie.
But he has no
Man of Steel.
But he has no choice.
Sure.
But, the Superman movies, I think, are actually the Christopher Reeves ones are. I even like part 4. I mean, I'll admit it. I like part 4.
I haven't seen part 4 in forever, so I can't really speak to it.
It's the weakest link, yes, out of all of them. But, I mean, what did you expect? It's the 4th film in a franchise.
Yeah.
They kind of wussed out on, the deleted scene had Bizarro and all that. They should have just left it as Bizarro, and it would have been cool, but...
They also ran out of money.
Well, and they butchered it. Like, the editors went in and they took out subplots that made scenes make sense. I mean, if anybody, I blame Canon for that movie and why it's so disjointed. It's not the filmmakers, it's not Christopher Reeves, it's not no one's fault. It's Canon's fault for going in there and saying, oh yeah, this whole subplot of Superman aging, because that was... The big subplot is that he kept getting older and weaker, and he couldn't figure out why he was getting weaker and older. But then they leave the whole outcome of that in the movie. So there's a scene of him in the fucking barn as an old man, and it's like what? Because you cut out the whole fucking subplot of that. So nowhere once up to that point do they ever even mention that he's getting older.
Haven't seen it. Probably since it came out on video.
You should watch it again.
I should.
You should watch
I absolutely would. But
watch it and Batman and Robin together.
I've seen Batman and Robin recently enough. I'm good on that. All right, man. It is late. I have to pee. I have to get up in the morning.
Me too.
I'm thirsty as shit.
I am too.
So let us end this here.
It's Halloweeny.
Thank you.
No problem. Anytime.
For coming on and debating this terrible movie with me. Thank you for being the first guest on a slightly resurrected Gutter Trash. Unofficial. This does not count as canon.
No.
This does not count towards the 300 episodes.
No, it's just a special.
It's a special-sode. As always. Halloween Specialsode 1, 2014. Oh, I will be back next week with another Halloween Specialsode with another guest.
You gonna release the name?
Let's see, next week. My guest on that show will be Bambi Branchfield.
Oh.
I do not know what we're watching yet.
Town That Dreaded Sundown.
Not gonna happen. So anyway, Gutter Trash proper will be back at some point in the future. I will guarantee it. But for now, Halloween is in the air and we are celebrating.
Woo!
Goodbye.
Bye-bye.
Thank you for listening to Gutter Trash. You can subscribe to the show from guttertrash.net or from iTunes and leave us a review. Visit guttertrash.net for email information, links to our Facebook and Twitter pages, and for other podcasts and websites in the Gutter Trash Network. Thanks again for listening, and we'll see you next time.